Hello, everyone. We are doing the final setup on this Friday afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you are in the world. I think we've actually run out of Friday morning for most of the world. I think we've moved on to afternoon. No, the Polynesian Islands, they still have morning.
Still morning here.
Oh, fair, fair. You're in Vancouver. This is actually my second stream with Vancouver today. We were doing astronomy cast earlier, and I'm now just making sure everything is going out healthy on all the places. It seems to be. So we are multicasting to both Twitch and YouTube. And I'm so grateful to everyone who is here today. And we are just a moment away from going into the official start. I'm just checking one last set of... Oh, you moved. There.
I did move.
Okay. Hold on. Let me recenter you. All right. You are good all across all the places. All right. Okay. So this is where we're going to cut for the final video. Welcome, live audiences. I am monitoring the chats, so go ahead and drop questions in at any time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of After Hours. For those of you tuning in the Americas or westward, I recognize it is not yet after hours. But for all of you who are a little bit closer to UTC +0, grab a comfy chair, grab a beverage of your choice, and we're going to kick back and we're going to talk science. Joining me this week is guest Trisha Epp. She is a physicist, philosopher, and futurist with a master's in geophysics from CalTech and a dual bachelors in physics and philosophy from the University of British Columbia. Since 2023, she's been the director of innovation for Freelancer's NASA Tournament Lab. This crowdsourcing innovation project invites the public to help solve global problems, ranging from the not very spacey maternal morbidity problems that are out there to all kinds of risk prevention, or I guess risk prediction to allow prevention. It's really a pleasure to have you on here, Trisha. The stuff that you're doing is near and dear to our entire audience's heart. And I'd like to start by asking, what is it that set you on this path to figure out how everyday people could solve the world's biggest problems?
It's hard to know where to start.
That's fair.
You talked a little bit about my educational background, and I studied physics in undergrad and philosophy in undergrad because I really wanted to understand the universe. And that probably resonates with a lot of people around here.
Yes.
We just want to understand what's going on here, what's going on out there, how does this all work? And so that's always been a passion of mine. But then the path has been meandering, I must say. So I worked in geophysics for a while, doing trekking through jungles and looking for gold. And then I worked at a utility software company, so figuring out how do you optimize the folks who are fixing all of our light, gas, and water resources in different places around the world. And then I was the operations manager at a museum called the Nikkei National Museum and Cultural Center, which is a Japanese-Canadian cultural center, so a huge community hub. And while I was there, I thought, okay, I really want to get back into science. I always dreamed of being able to contribute to very large science projects. I didn't actually love doing the research myself, but I'm really good at organizing people and connecting people, and so that's the role I wanted. And then I found this dream job. And so I work for Freelancer.com, which is the world's largest freelance and crowdsourced marketplace. And Freelancer, so we have this enormous reach globally. We can reach niche people all over the world who might be able to solve specific problems. And so NASA came to us and they said, okay, you have the largest network. We have problems. Let's try to connect those people. And I absolutely love doing that. I love being able to say, okay, you want a niche expert in figuring out how to do open source coding in C that's going to be doing automated testing of the Orion spacecraft that's taking the Artemis 2 mission. I'll find you that person. And it turns out that person is a Norwegian programmer who is working on automotive technology in Japan, who has the right expertise to be able to do also like the transportation testing for the Orion, for spacecraft.
Yeah.
But like, how would you find that person otherwise? How would NASA find that person? So that's my job, is to track down those people.
And the director of innovation is perhaps one of the best titles. It's still below director of planetary defense, but it's right up there, and you get to help the Office of Planetary Defense, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Well, happy to help everybody. Happy to connect. I love being quite, that node in the network.
Now, with the website, which I have up for our audience to see, it goes through, and it's not just NASA that you're working with. You're also working with National Institutes for Health, the Centers for Disease Control, so many other government agencies, and the problems being addressed are ones that it's not the kind of crowdsourcing a lot of us are used to, where we go out hat in hands and say, "Hi, we have a data problem. Can you please volunteer hours and hours and hours to help us solve it?" You are actually looking for people who have the potential to win monetary rewards for solving massive prizes.
Yes, exactly. It's a totally different model, and it's very interesting. So it's really win-win on both sides. Um, for a person who is a owner of a challenge, we say to them, give us your toughest problems and we will land it. Or if you don't find a solution, you don't have to pay that price. So we'll figure out how to solve that problem, whatever your toughest problem is. For people who participate, who might be some of your listeners, I don't know of which side they would be on. But we call it the 4Gs. The 4Gs are the motivators why people might participate in a competition like this. So it's gold, guts, glory, and good. And you can probably get an idea of what that means. But gold is, okay, we're going to put up $1 million of prizes. If you solve this problem, you win $1 million. So, okay, some people are motivated because they're just like, hey, that's great. That would make a huge difference in my life. I want that. Guts. So maybe I'm a student in this field and I just want to like prove myself. I just want to try doing that problem. And this is why people do marathons and Tough Mudders and things like that, right? They just want to like test themselves on it. Glory is, I want to win that prize, and I want NASA to say, I'm the best in the world, the best person that they found competing in how do you refuel spacecraft in microgravity. And I put that on my resume. I put that everywhere. It is an accolade that I get to keep forever. Or good. So we have a competition called for the National Institute of Health for genome editing. And genome, so 10% of people have rare diseases. And rare diseases may be caused by a single genome mutation. Mm-hmm. And if you can do genome editing on that single genome mutation, you can start treating rare diseases, which, because they don't have those economies of scale, they might not have special medicines for it or general medicines, but you can get specialized, personalized medicine. And so someone wants to solve that problem for the good of the world, for the good of maybe someone they know with a rare disease, or they've been personally affected, or they just understand that 10% of people are affected by this. That might be a reason why they participate in a competition.
And to be super clear on that, because 10% sounds like a huge number. It's 10% of the population has one of myriad rare diseases. Yeah. And so we're looking at thousands of disorders that might affect 100 living people, 10 living people. Exactly. And there's no cost benefit analysis that says a company should invest in a cure for something that might kill someone by 5 because of one gene misfiring. But with CRISPR, there's the potential to cure that child.
Yeah, and to have personalized medicine that is specific to your DNA.
And the problems are really all over the map. But one of the things that I've noticed over and over looking through this is you're sitting at that sweet spot recognizing, our understanding of ourselves, of our world, of our universe is advancing at the speed of both technology and creativity. And we can
Mhm.
advance technology all we want, but if there isn't that human being who has just the right area of creativity and expertise, all that technology goes to waste. And I have to ask, how far afield are you going to find, as you mentioned, that one person in that one Norwegian who had the exact skill set? How do you do
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, well, the thing is, Pam, when you have is it Pamela or
It's
Pam? Which do you
Pamela.
prefer?
It's okay.
Pamela. Pamela, the thing is, a lot of problems, when you're able to deconstruct it and take it away out of that industry jargon,
Yeah.
so we can look at something and say, okay, how do we make this not only an aerospace problem?
Right.
How can we make it a general problem? And so we take away that industry jargon, we take away the acronyms, we give any like background context that somebody who's not an expert in that industry might need.
Yeah.
And then someone outside the industry is able to take a look and say, oh, that looks like this problem that we've already solved over here working in transportation. And, or, we've actually already solved that problem with our tattoo art machinery. And so then, right, like, which is, they're never going to look at an
Okay,
aerospace
so
problem.
that tells me you have already had a problem that was solved with something that looked like a tattoo art museum, not museum, machine, and I need to
Yeah.
hear that story.
It's not my story, but I can tell it. So there's a book called Bold, and it talks a lot about these kind of problems. And there was a competition for cleaning up oil spills.
Yeah.
And so it was like in the oil and gas industry, how do you clean up oil spills on the ocean? And one of the finalists was a tattoo artist who said, okay, yeah, we need to work with fluids. We actually have a little bit of this expertise if we can deconstruct the problem well enough that somebody from outside the industry. And what NASA thinks is actually many of the problems are already solved in a different industry.
Hmm.
And so we need to get that cross industry pollination to come in. And so it's not always the person you think that will solve that problem when you're looking for different skills. So part of what we do is this challenge design phase where we do this problem deconstruction. We give someone who's not necessarily an expert in that field all of the information that they might need to solve that specific problem. We say, hey, who else has new creative ideas? And Pamela, the other thing is, with the rise of AI, which is obviously very interesting and on
Yeah.
people's minds, not every problem that's solved is published. So
Yes.
many people, they've done their own work, but they haven't put it on the internet. They understand how to solve a problem, but it takes a lot to write it up, and they might not be motivated to do that.
Right.
And this kind of can give an incentive when you've already solved a problem to say, oh, okay, I can offer that solution now, but an AI crawler isn't going to know that. Humans know much more information than what is publicly available.
Well, and the AI crawler can't necessarily tell the difference between something that somebody writes as parody, something that someone writes as science fiction, and the latest reality of how we're interacting with our world. And there is some of the craziest stuff coming out from this lack of context that is spilling out into our search results.
Yeah.
And it's that context that seems to matter so much, that you're hitting at when you talk about the need to remove the industry jargon. One of my favorite stories
Mhm.
is how when women started entering the profession of archaeology, they saw
Mhm.
things that a lot of the men had been seeing as icons, as deities, as those are just toys. And that epiphany of, well, the reason you're finding the thing that looks like a carved cow in the trash bin isn't because they were throwing out their god, it's because the kid outgrew it. These
Mm.
kinds of recontextualizations that are only possible when you come at things with different eyes and different experiences allows us, it's why diversity adds capability to a team, because you're each bringing a different skill set and context to the work.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
and you have had 141 different nations participate in this
Right.
project. I don't even know how many countries there are in the world right now. The number is not constant. But that is most of the world. And And are you drawing primarily from academics, from industry? Where do you go to promote what you're doing and encourage participation?
So freelancer.com is primarily a freelance marketplace.
Yes.
So many people would go and they make their careers on doing freelance work.
Yeah.
And so that type of work tends to be things like graphic design, website building, computer programming, app building, stuff that people want to do over and over again. But we
And
have
digital
a huge,
nomads.
for sure, yeah. And we have this enormous reach of, I think, probably 90 million people at this point
Hmm.
who are on the platform. And
Hmm.
so that's part of how we,
Okay.
draw people in. They could be from all over the world. When we're working with the US government, sometimes there's certain laws that
Yeah.
prevents us working with
China.
certain countries. But in general, when we have a problem, we can bring people from all over the world to solve it. And then who solves the problem really depends on what kind of problem it is. So, for example, when the people who are using and contributing to Space Ross. And those participants, they may be industry professionals. So they're now working at different companies, and this is really cool because maybe you couldn't get a job in aerospace engineering, but you still have all those skills and you're working in some other mechanical engineering aspect. We had student participants, from all over and from across the world. So some competitions are very, very accessible, and they allow you to do something that might not be, you couldn't get that as an entry level job, or it's going to contribute to you getting an entry level job because now you can put on your resume, NASA has awarded you for your space robot expertise, which is an enormous accolade.
Yes. And the thing that I have to remember is there's no age limits on most of what you do. Um, I mean, clearly there's some problems that just you don't want to let children do, like if you ever have a human trafficking problem. But we see science fair projects periodically of kid figures out how to. Recently, there was a breakthrough where they figured out that EpiPens exposed to the radiation of space very quickly become toxic. And the idea that they might accidentally have stabbed an astronaut with an EpiPen for good reason and
Mm-hmm.
made the situation worse will be prevented by these high school kids. Are you finding that this is empowering students at the university level and younger to take on global problems that they might not otherwise even know about?
Yes. So it's actually really incredible. I went recently to the International Astronautical Congress in
Yeah.
Australia last fall, and I actually got to meet a couple winners of a competition that we ran um, in Australia with sponsorship from the Australian Space Agency through Lunar Outpost Oceania. And I met two students. One of them was at the time a university student and is now working on the Australian Lunar Rover program. So gone on to get jobs working in aerospace, working on the lunar rover based on doing a competition design for the lunar rover. And another student who was still in high school, who also was one of the winners
Yes.
of this competition, and who had then presented to NASA and to other aerospace agencies, space agencies from around the world on the type of work they were doing. And so clearly had opened up the doors for them, and they were actually quite interested in, on the topic that you mentioned, space medicine,
Yeah.
and was winning this competition really accelerated their career in the space industry, even in high school. And so we do on the Freelancer platform, we do have rules around if you're 18 and under, then you need to have a parent or guardian that is, um, you know, giving permission for you to be
Yes.
participating in this. But it really does, it can change a career trajectory for someone who gets to work on a problem like this.
Now, there's a long heritage of prize programs. The first that I'm aware of was Charles Lindbergh crossing the
Mhm.
ocean. There is the Ansari X Prize that led to Scaled Composites' launch of their little tiny spacecraft that ended up
Mhm.
growing up to be Virgin Galactic Space Program.
Mhm.
We saw the Google Lunar X Prize that was in some ways tragic because we had a global suite of teams that were making such amazing progress on their rovers and no really good launch vehicles for them. But
Mhm.
now we're seeing so many of those Google Lunar X Prize teams have been able to launch and have become today's CLIPS partners for NASA's commercial space. You are in a new space separate from the X Prize Foundation, still working with NASA, still working on innovating. Where do you see yourself within this heritage of building innovation through prize competitions?
Yeah, I see myself as very young as in the space because I've
Yeah,
only been, as you mentioned at the beginning, working here for 3 years on this kind of program.
right.
And there are many people who have come before me that I've spoken to in this space who have taught me about it, who are working on it, who are accelerating it or have built the foundations for what I get to work on now. And what Freelancer brings is this enormous global reach. And we're able to bring people from all over the world to work on these problems because we already have this enormous network on it and move forward very quickly. So X Prize is typically large scale donor based programs
Yes.
and multi-year, which we also can run multi-year programs, but most of our programs are months long
Yeah.
and getting these kind of quick delivery of finished products that are needed, or so prototypes, or even just ideation. What could be doing? What's a new way to solve this sort of problem?
And one of the things that um, got me was oh shoot, I'm struggling to show it on screen now. Your animation got the better of me. The work on maternal morbidity had a 9-month deadline on it, and I appreciated that synchronicity and cleverness in
Mm-hmm.
duration. And you get in many cases tens to dozens of people that are entering into these competitions offering up solutions of different kinds. Are you finding that there's any particular kinds of projects that are really struggling to get participation, any skills areas that having the largest network in the world doesn't help when there's only 4 specialists in the world? Where are the places that you're still looking for more humans?
Pamela, unfortunately, I'll say we haven't actually struggled to find participants. And I say unfortunately, because at some point, if you're truly trying to like do something difficult, you want to fail.
Right.
So unfortunately, we just haven't failed yet. So we need more difficult problems. But our project owners, so the people who are sponsoring the competitions,
Yeah.
sometimes have that idea that we don't think there's actually enough experts in the world to solve this problem. And so I'll give you an example. So we worked with the Bureau of Reclamation
Hmm.
on a river modeling competition. So they wanted to be able to model river and sediment flow.
Hmm.
And they had a model already, and their model took days to see where, how do we model what this river is going to be doing. But they said, look, we have the experts. We're really good at this. We don't really think we're going to find a winner who can make this 10 times faster than it already is.
Yeah.
And and we said, okay, but we'll run this competition and we'll run a first phase. And if we are successful in the first phase, we'll run a second phase and we'll see how it goes. And and we thought we had like four prizes that we said, okay, the top four people will give. We expanded the number of prizes they wanted to give because we had so many good solutions for it.
Oh,
And
wow.
we ended up being able to speed it up 60 times. So against a 10 times target, we found someone who could speed it up 60 times, who's a retired mathematician from France. So not a hydraulics expert, not somebody working in the field, not somebody working at all anymore, but who could bring their expertise to a new field and help. And so we went from a 3-day simulation to under an hour simulation, which when you're trying to make decisions,
Yes.
it's quite significant. So sometimes we say we have people come and say we don't think there's enough experts in the world at this. We don't think we're going to find a solution. But we actually have been able to deliver every time. So we need more difficult problems. So eventually we fail on something and we find new ways of doing it.
Now, I did see that you offer both the opportunity for people to read about existing projects or to book a time to discuss a problem that they or
Mm.
their company or their research institute is trying to solve. I can imagine that there's a lot of people out there with really challenging problems that ownership of the solution is part of what prevents them from being able to find a solution because they people want to
Mhm.
hold on to ideas too
Mhm.
closely. How do you get people to be willing to say, okay, we're going to let just anyone solve this in a capitalist society? I can imagine that's a challenge because I know I've had that challenge talking to people.
Okay, there's two aspects of this I want to talk about.
Uh-huh.
So the first is who owns the solution.
Right.
And the way it is approached with when we run competitions with NASA, there's a couple of different ways. So most of the time, the ownership of the IP stays with the solver,
Hmm.
and NASA asks for a license
Right.
to use it most of the time. And some of the time, NASA asks to buy the IP. And usually those are design type competitions where NASA has asked them to design a poster
Yes.
of this technology that we have sponsored, but we don't have any pictures of because it's not, it's a 20 to 30 years away technology. So we don't have any good, images of it. Make a poster of this so we can start advertising. And then they want to own the IP because they
Yeah.
want to own that image. But if they're just saying, we need an idea for how to refuel spacecraft in microgravity, you keep the idea, but give us a license to build it,
Yeah.
then the IP stays with the solver. So that's one aspect of what you've asked. The other aspect is if a company has a problem that they want to solve and they don't want to give away their company secrets, how do they start putting
Right.
that problem out into the world? Right? And
Yeah.
and then you want an analog problem. You want something that is like what you're trying to solve, but you've removed all of the identity. And so we actually are launching now a competition like that. It's called Boom, and it's saying what happens when you have a point collision. For example, an asteroid is hit by something, or an
Yeah.
asteroid hits the planet. So you have a point collision, and you have different gravities, and where do all of the particles go? And that's not the problem they're trying to solve. but I won't tell you what it is because it's their secret.
Yeah,
And so,
DARPA is
but it's
famous for that.
yeah, it's exactly. And it's translatable. And so you solve one problem and then you translate it to the actual problem you wanted to solve. So that those are two aspects. And so do you have an example from DARPA of what they've done?
So one of my favorites, and I'm probably going to get the story slightly wrong because I'm thinking back like 20 years when they were very baby doing autonomous vehicles. The discussion was they had an artificial township that you had to drive through with your autonomous
Mm,
vehicle to deliver mail. And DARPA wasn't interested in delivering mail,
mhm.
but being able to navigate all the chaos of a town to deliver mail was analogous to the problem that DARPA actually was trying to solve. And so you see these things along the way of speed, velocity, massive vehicle, all of those things might change, but the core problem of combining real-time LiDAR imaging, laser distance measurements, and cameras to navigate through a complex surrounding, that's going to be the same in either case.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one approach to if you have a problem you want to solve and you don't want to give away
Yeah.
your internal company secrets.
I love that. And using uh, analogous landscapes, analogous technologies, analogous problems is something that is so key to, as a geophysicist, you must have encountered this. We look to Schooner Crater, which was made with atomic weapons, to understand asteroid impacts because the
Mhm.
physics of releasing a vast amount of energy into the ground is the same in both cases. And we can't study fresh asteroid craters on our planet because weather tends to make them go away rather
Put them away a
quickly.
little bit. Hmm.
And so we talk about all of these Mars analogs, lunar analogs, all of these places on Earth that are like places on other
Yeah.
worlds.
Yep. And exactly, testing lunar regolith, but it's actually
Yes.
rocks that we've gotten from Earth and we've kind of made into something that's like the lunar regolith, we think, to test.
And
Hmm.
and this is key for so many problems. To stay with the lunar regolith, there was research recently that came out where I think it was chickpeas they managed to get to grow in lunar simulants. And so was it actual lunar
Yeah.
dirt? No, that stuff's too expensive. We don't plant things in it. But it was the same chemical compositions as what would have come from the
Hmm.
moon. Now, you must have favorite projects. What are some of your favorites? I know no one is supposed to have a favorite, but we're humans. We have favorites.
I'm so excited right now about a program that we ran. It was called Moon Mascot, and it's to find or create a zero gravity indicator for the Artemis 2 mission. So, and a zero gravity indicator sounds really fancy. It's a plush toy. So
Right,
it's
right.
like it's usually an astronaut's kid's toy
Yeah,
giraffe that they like tie a string to and they hang it from the the shuttle cockpit. So
yeah.
when everybody is strapped in and uh, it floats when you reach zero gravity. And I'm very excited about it because I don't know who the winner is. We have 25 finalists. NASA knows who the winner is, but they haven't even told me. And it'll get announced. It's going up with the Artemis mission. And so they'll announce it like a week before the Artemis mission takes off, which has been delayed a few times. So I'm, anxiously waiting. But the designs were from all over the world. We had thousands of entries from all ages. So there was a kids division, there was an adult division, there was a classroom division. And the designs, some of them were about Artemis. And so it was like a deer or Artemis with a bow. And some of them were axolotls. Some
Oh,
of them were like turtles. One was like a giant with a little guy on his shoulder. So just like really creative, very different. You had rabbits because in Asian cultures there's a
right.
rabbit on the moon. So just really fantastic, creative, humanity inspiring zero gravity indicator moon mascots. And I'm very excited about it because it was fun. A lot of people got to be involved. it's very accessible, so you didn't actually really need any expertise in order to just draw your little critter. Um, and it's going to be out soon, so I have that anticipation that adds a little bit of emotional energy for me.
Yeah, it's we're looking at April right now for an
Mhm.
Artemis 2 launch. Little tiny atoms like they're using really do not want to stay confined, so they're having valve issues. Um, we are hopeful, and yeah. So other than stuffed toys, what other hyper creative things have you seen?
Hyper creative. So there was, I've sort of alluded to it a couple times. We ran a program for how do you refuel spacecraft in
Yeah,
microgravity. And and that was really interesting because, on Earth, you have your gas that's flowing down into your gas tank,
right.
and we really rely on gravity to make it go down into it, and, a little bit of suction probably. But in space, you have sometimes the gas and the liquid that are floating around together, and you need to separate it because you only want the liquid components to go into the spacecraft if you're trying to refuel spacecraft, which
Yeah,
we don't do that often, unfortunately. As you know, our sustainable satellite plan is to burn the satellites up in our atmosphere, or maybe just get them to crash into the ocean, and that's ideal, which in my
yeah.
opinion is
No.
probably not sustainable as exponentially we increase the number of satellites. So we really need to be able to start refueling. We want to go on longer distance space missions. We need to refuel those spacecraft. We can't launch it with everything it needs. We want to, have satellites that last longer. We need to be able to refuel our satellites. And so this program that we ran allows us to figure out how do we do this refuel. It required retrofitting. And some of the ideas were very creative because they were all quite different. So, I mean, I was talking to my cousin and she said, it's like a wine bag, you squeeze out the wine bag. And I was like, this is, you're not wrong. Like, you could do it that way. But other ideas are things like using centrifugal force
Yeah.
centrifugal force. So like how do you just spin it and it'll separate? But I loved the idea of using harmonics.
Oh, I
So
haven't heard that one.
send some kind of wave in, and the wave will, at a certain frequency can separate the liquid and the gas. So use some acoustic harmonics and do the separation that way. And it was just, they're totally different solutions. Some are mechanical, some are, using artificial gravity by spinning. Some are using, those wave energy waves.
Yeah.
Um, and you come at it instead of brainstorming in a room where one person gives an idea and then you riff off of that idea, you get these divergent ideas that are all very different because people have these different mental models, they have their different experience, their different skills. They look at a problem, they're like, I know how to use a hammer. That problem needs a hammer, right? Um, and so they can bring these different perspectives in, and you get a bunch of different ideas, which adds to the creativity. And then, the experts at NASA can say, okay, we have now a bunch of ideas which we might not have thought about in our room, or maybe we did, but let's see which of these are actually going to be viable for what we need.
And I have to admit that your title, Director of Innovation, and the content that is highlighted front and center on your website is all really big ideas. The how do we save lives? How do we leave the planet?
Yeah.
How do we use machine learning and AI to figure out where tomorrow's danger might come from? But what I'm hearing is innovation can also be how do we communicate an idea through a poster? How do we
Yeah.
embrace how often do you find yourself wanting to tell people that's innovation when they think they're just playing?
Actually, for me, I feel like the title and the word innovation gets quite nebulous.
Yeah.
And so I'm not necessarily going around saying innovation, innovation, innovation with my innovation wand.
See, that's what a
But
scientist would be doing. I tell people that's science all the time.
yeah, that's right. Um, but yeah, I think it is everywhere, and I think anytime you have to solve a problem with a creative way, it is innovation. And my father is an electrician, and around the house there's all kinds of inventions that he has made. And some of them are, you wouldn't have a design firm make that solution,
Mm-hmm.
but it has worked for decades. And it's cheap and it's easy. And sometimes what NASA needs is the cheap idea that
Mm-hmm.
is quick to build and easy, and it's going to work for decades. Uh,
Yes.
right? And so the best ideas don't necessarily come from the most educated person. They sometimes come from just someone who had to solve that problem, or a similar problem, and uh, using the tools that they have at hand.
I working with farm kids, they can problem solve just about anything.
Yeah.
And it's that real world experience that so many of us are missing nowadays because we live in our devices and
Mhm.
we don't necessarily see the problem solving that goes into so many different things. I used to work at a stable, and there was one day I went in. I was like, "What is going on?" Because they'd spread sawdust as far as the eye could see, and it had
Mm.
rained on the sawdust that was meant for the horses, and they had to dry it out. So spreading it out in a thin layer
Yeah.
over all of everything was the answer. And I'm like, that was science. And we're like, we don't do science, we do horses. And I mean, the truth is, they were
Mhm.
problem solving using real world experience
Yeah.
in a super efficient way. You seem to be matchmaking in remarkable ways where I can imagine there is a digital nomad logging in from some palm tree location, because that's where I always imagine digital nomads is with palm trees,
Right.
working on a problem that is affecting people off the grid. And
Mm.
that is, there's poetry in what you do, as well as, well, solutions to the world's hardest problems and softest and squishiest gravitational detectors. What are the kinds of things that like you want to come and say, okay, let me work with you? Have you had any moments of, oh, someone just articulated something and I must recruit them right now?
I have some dream projects. Okay, so one of my dream projects is to work on some quantum computing
Okay.
programs. So, as you know, quantum computing perpetually 5 to 10 years away.
Yeah. For like
For
the past 20
the last few
years.
decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, always almost there. But here in Vancouver, there's actually a company, it's called D-Wave, and they do have quantum computing solutions on the market, and they're working with like our local grocery chain to do optimization problems,
Yeah.
solving those much faster. And so that technology is improving. And I tell everybody, you will know when the quantum revolution happens because all of your security encryption is broken.
It's true.
Yeah, and you will know. Everybody will know when that happens because we'll be in a new era of cybersecurity. But as we get there, we already have solutions that are available to go to market, and many industries don't really know how to use it. And
Right.
so I think it would be a very ideal problem to say, okay, how can you use what's available now or what's coming next and apply it to different industries? And that's a really interesting innovation problem because you want people from different industries to come and look at the type of solution available and see how it applies to banking, to grocery chains, to
Yeah.
mining, just to all, medical imaging, all those optimization problems can be solved much more quickly with quantum computing. So that's one of my dream programs. Another dream program I have is I love watching those videos of some people who are in the desert and they've dug like half circle moons to trap the water to stop the spread of desertification. So they're like,
Yes.
okay, if you dig these half circles, this is the best shape. We've tested this, and the plants will start growing in those half circles because the water will be trapped there. So I really want to work on ecosystem restoration work. And I'm looking for a sponsor because I have a program already in mind that's like written already.
Ugh.
And we just need like a sponsor to put in 10K to launch this.
And that's
And
nothing.
yeah, right. It's, yeah, anybody have 10K? Can you just donate we'll launch it. We'll launch it
Yeah.
next week. But I think, having a global program that's like in your community with your ecosystem, what needs to be done to do ecosystem restoration? Is it those desert circle semicircles, half
Hmm.
moons, or is it in Vancouver? We've put a lot of our streams underground.
Oh,
They're near the streets. We need to just daylight those streams back up.
yeah.
Creatures need those. We
Yeah.
shouldn't have put them underground. So maybe, for us, that's one. Oh, I have a hand raised, but I don't know how that happened.
That's okay. I'm pretty sure
Is
I
it me?
can maybe make there. I've made the notice go away. You may still see it on your screen, but they don't see it on their screen.
Okay. Yeah, weird. I didn't touch anything.
I
Anyway,
do that all the
so
time.
so whatever, whatever your local ecosystem is, do you just need more pollinators? Whatever is the need there, do something to solve it. And there's a 10K prize for people around the world, and make some videos, and then you can inspire others, and they might see what you've done and realize, oh, that wasn't that hard. I can do that too. So that's another one of my dream projects. I have many, because this is the type of thing that across industries,
Yeah.
it's very applicable, because what you need is a very hard scientific, technical, long-standing problem. You tell me something, this is how we've done it for 50 years. I'm like, this is an innovation challenge. If you've done it this way for 50 years,
Right.
we can find a better way. Those are long-standing, technical, scientific, if it's a problem like that. And then we bring in people around the world, cross industry, who have new ideas for it. And it's really, we can solve the toughest problems. We want something that we won't be able to solve, but we haven't found it yet.
I love it. I love it. I have the opposite problem of the desert. Things here will not stop growing, but too many of
Oh,
them are
great.
invasive. So for me, it's the how do
Right.
I identify and murder the unwanteds? And these
That's
are
good
problems
too.
we have
Yeah.
all over the place. And so getting people matched across similar ecosystems to solve these problems, you're not just solving your local community. You're solving all the microhabitats, all the microclimates that are like yours with these different discoveries. So you're acting local and solving global, and that's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
You do amazing work. This has been a joy of a conversation, and I now know that whenever anyone's like, "Hey, do you know where I can go to find remote work?" Well,
Great.
freelancer.com is where you go, and
Easy. Mhm.
and it's also where you can go to figure out how to improve the world. And on some of the hopeless days that happen nowadays, we need these places to go and find joy. And thank you for putting joy
Mhm.
into the world. Do you have any final comments that you want for our audience?
Well, keep an eye. We never know what problem is going to come up next,
Yeah.
because we launch them as we get them. But technology developed by our Moonshot program at Freelancer is taking Artemis 2 back to the moon. So we didn't get asked to solve that leak one, but maybe we should.
Fair.
Maybe. But whatever, this formerly secret, unintentionally secret US government platform that we have and we've built over the last decade is now available, and we would love to solve your toughest problems. If anybody listening has one, please tell me. Trisha at freelancer.com. Come and call me. I will talk to you. I love it. And we'll solve some problems.
And
Thank you so much, Pamela. It's been really a pleasure to talk to you, and you're quite well versed in many, many aspects, clearly, and let's keep in touch. It's nice to know you.
yeah, it has been a pleasure. And for any of you thinking, okay, that all sounds amazing, but what can I do that takes less thought? Well, I have moon mapping you can go to mappers.psi.edu and help us map out lunar melt and find the safe places to land and the scientifically interesting places to explore. We don't have any prizes. We just are doing science. All right. Thank you. I'm going to put everything down in the show notes so that people can find this. And yeah, it's just been awesome. Thank you for inspiring us.